Hey guys, Neely here. I am coming in today for a much requested video on the alternative natural sweeteners that I use. If you are on the THM plan or if you are familiar with that plan and their take on sweeteners, a lot of this will be very familiar because I pretty much have the same take as the authors of that plan. But first I wanted to mention that I am not talking about artificial sweeteners like aspartame or Splenda or saccharin. I personally have decided that those are not something that I consume. Just there's a lot of evidence, scientific evidence out there that they really can wreak havoc on your body, and it's just enough that I stay away from it personally, but it is totally a personal choice, and I don't begrudge anybody who uses Splenda or whatever. It's just something that I have chosen not to use, so I'm not going to be talking about those in this video. I'm mostly just going to be talking about the ones that I partake in and that I see as the healthiest choices if you are going to do a non-calorie sweetener. I also wanted to mention that I am all for natural sugars like honey and maple syrup and coconut sugar. Let's see. Even organic cane sugar I use for my family. So I think those are all great options for people that can handle them. For my growing kids and for my very lean husband, anyone that's very active, I think those are awesome alternatives to just, processed white sugar. But for those of us that are in different stages of life where our blood sugar isn't able to handle those kind of sweeteners, or if we're trying to lose weight, it's nice to have other options. So the three different natural sweeteners that I personally use are xylitol. I have them here to show you. Xylitol and erythritol and pure stevia, and this is the THM brand. I didn't save the packaging, I just put it into my little jar and use it that way, but the THM brand is the best tasting by far that I have ever tried, and so I always get the THM brand. And it has no additives or anything like that. It's just pure stevia and it tastes so good. I also wanted to mention that there is some scientific evidence coming out that these sweeteners can raise insulin. Your body can react to them like it reacts to sugar. It gets the sweet taste on the tongue, and then your body responds by producing insulin, and that can cause issues in some people. So this is the kind of thing where you have to really be a detective about your own body, and instead of just deciding this is a good food for everyone or this is a bad food for everyone like a lot of people do, it's something that I feel like you should just watch your own body's reaction to it and kind of pay attention. Like if you're trying to lose weight and you're doing everything right and your body is just not responding, it might be something to play with, to cut these things out and just see if your body is the type that really responds to that sweet flavor or sweet taste on your tongue, and if you might need to cut back. For other people, like for me, I've experimented a lot with cutting all these sweeteners out and then adding them back in and kind of watching my body. And for me, I have found that they are a buffer food for me, which means they actually help me to eat healthier. And I talked about buffer foods and trigger foods on a different video, and I will link that up in the cards for you guys to check that out. So these definitely are a category of food that for some people could be a trigger food, which will cause them to make worse choices later on or to have different cravings, or like I said, the insulin response that's going to hinder you from being able to lose weight. And then for other people like me, they could be a buffer food that allow you to have a more varied diet, and it can really help satisfy any kind of desires or cravings for sweetness without going to something that's less healthy. So like for me, it allows me to eat more healthy food, and I will talk about that a little bit more at the end when I talk about how I use sweeteners and like specifically what I think about when I use a sweetener. But I just wanted to talk about each of these sweeteners individually, and then I will go into how I use them. So the xylitol is a sugar alcohol, and of the three sweeteners that I'm talking about, this one is the only one that has actual calories. It has 10 calories per teaspoon, so that's something to keep in mind if you are counting calories and you are using this. It's not just a free food. It does have a little bit of calories, and it is a sugar alcohol, and it is widely accepted that sugar alcohols don't raise your blood sugar like regular carbohydrates. It is listed on the back as a carbohydrate. So if you are counting carbs or are on any kind of a lower carb diet, you'll want to recognize that those sugar alcohols usually don't affect your blood sugar. But again, this is an area where your mileage may vary. Again, it's just one of those things where you have to know your body and kind of be a detective and decide for yourself if it works for you or not. Then erythritol, again, is a sugar alcohol. Again, same thing. It is not known to raise blood sugar. I have not had it raise my blood sugar. I have a glucose monitor that I test with, and I do great with it. Again, it's listed on the back as a carbohydrate, generally accepted in the low carb community that you don't count those as regular carbs, although different people have different opinions. But this one, the erythritol, does not have any calories. So one thing to keep in mind with the xylitol and the erythritol is that a lot of times they can come from GMO corn, and this is something that is not going to bother everybody. It's just kind of a personal preference thing. I try to stay away from GMOs whenever possible, try not to have them be a big part of my diet. I don't get obsessive about it, but I just don't want them to be a regular part of my diet. So I prefer the non-GMO corn options. I believe the Now brand is certified non-GMO, and then this Xylitol USA brand that does the xylitol and the erythritol, they're both non-GMO options. And usually companies, if they do use a non-GMO option, they will want you to know that because that's a selling point for them. So if you get a package and it doesn't say if it's GMO or not, you can pretty safely assume that it is GMO. So that's just something to keep in mind. Like Truvia, which is an erythritol stevia blend, it doesn't say it's non-GMO, so I'm gonna assume that it is from a GMO corn product. And again, that's not gonna bother everybody. It's not a deal breaker for everybody, but it's just something to be aware of. And then as far as the stevia, what you really want to be aware of on this is to get a pure form where it doesn't have any fillers. A lot of times they will add maltodextrin or dextrose or some kind of a bulking agent to bulk it up, make it kind of like cup for cup for sugar. If you find any kind of stevia product that's cup for cup to sugar, you probably have some kind of a bulking agent in there, and I just try to stay away from those. The maltodextrin and the dextrose, I believe, both come from corn, and again, that can be a GMO corn product, and it's just a carbohydrate, like it's a sugar, like a corn sugar, basically. So if you're really trying to keep sugar out of your diet, you don't want to be adding in a whole bunch of maltodextrin and dextrose, and it is a very small amount, so some people will not have an issue. It's just something to be aware of. And then the THM brand stevia that's pure, that I feel really, really good about, is the absolute best tasting out there. I'm not saying that, I'm not getting paid by them at all, but it really is the best tasting stevia I have ever had. And I've been using stevia for, I don't know, maybe 7 years now. And yeah, I've tried a lot of them, so definitely recommend the THM brand stevia for its taste and for its purity. So now I wanted to talk about how I use these sweeteners and just kind of what I think through when I use it. I don't do a lot of baking or recreating different junk foods. I have done that in the past, and I actually have a lot of videos on reviewing THM recipes for a lot of their baked goods, and I don't have a problem with that. I think it's, again, a personal choice. For me, I found that when I was doing that, I didn't lose very much weight. I was doing that in a time when I was trying to lose weight and it just wasn't coming off. And there could be a lot more reasons. I know for sure that there's a lot more reasons for that than just the baked goods. But I also know that after cutting out the baked goods is when I started dropping weight. And I also noticed that I was able to be a lot fuller on a lot fewer calories when I did cut out those baked goods. It's just way too easy for me, this is a personal thing for me, to eat a whole bunch of calories of healthy chocolate chip cookies or healthy brownies or healthy muffins. It's just easy. That's just the nature of those foods. So for me, I found that if I didn't want to, obsessively count calories or worry about portion sizes, cutting out those things really helped, because then I can pretty much eat to satiety of, you know, veggies and meat and other very healthy, high fiber, high water foods, and not have to worry about overdoing it like I was with the baked goods. So what I do with the sweeteners is I try to use them in a way that allows me to get different healthy foods into my diet that I wouldn't get into my diet without the sweet taste. And an example of this is Good Girl Moonshine. It is a THM drink that has ginger. I do it with fresh ginger. I add cinnamon, that wasn't in the original recipe, and apple cider vinegar. And I personally am not going to drink a drink with apple cider vinegar, ginger, and cinnamon in it without a sweetener. I have tried it before when I was on, I don't remember if I was on the Whole30 or something where I wasn't doing any kind of sweeteners, and I tried the Good Girl Moonshine without any stevia, and I could drink it, but I don't enjoy it. But those are super healthy ingredients. I know the apple cider vinegar is amazing for my digestion, and ginger is good for all kinds of things. Cinnamon is great for blood sugar, and it's just an amazing concoction of ingredients to drink throughout the day, and putting that little bit of stevia in the drink allows me to enjoy it and actually get it into my diet every day. Another example is the skinny chocolate, or the skinny truffles, also called chocolate delight. It's just the coconut oil chocolate. My favorite is the skinny truffles that has gelatin added to it and water, and so it makes like a really soft, a soft chocolate, not like a hard chocolate bar, but the coconut oil is super healthy, and the gelatin added to it also is super healthy, and I'm not going to eat that if it doesn't have the sweetener in it. So adding the little bit of sweetener helps me get those really healthy foods into my diet. And then the other way that I like to use the sweeteners is for buffer foods, and buffer foods are foods that help you be satisfied and to be able to continue to make healthy choices throughout the day. So it's the idea that what you choose to eat at one meal is going to affect what you eat at the next meal. So if you eat what looks like a super perfect healthy meal, and then it causes you to have cravings and not feel satisfied, and you end up eating a pizza the next meal, then that meal wasn't super healthy. So a buffer food is going to be something that you add to your meal that just helps you feel satisfied, whether it's physically, like something with a lot of fiber, or emotionally, mentally, like eating chocolate or something after a meal. Something like that helps you to continue on with your healthy lifestyle, moving on to the next meals. So with the sweetener, I use that for like glucomannan pudding, which again, I'm going to be doing a video on that. I know a lot of people are really wanting that, so I'm going to be doing that soon. But glucomannan is pure fiber, and it makes you feel really full, and I really enjoy having like a little serving of that after a meal, especially if it's one of my lower calorie meals, because I eat that and it's sweet, it's chocolatey, it tastes, I won't say it's like, I don't eat it for the taste. Like, it's not bad, it's enjoyable, but it's not the kind of thing where I'm like, oh man, that tastes so good. It's more the effect that it gives my body after I eat it. I eat it and I feel satisfied, my stomach feels full, and I can easily go, a few hours before thinking about food and getting hungry again. So that is another way that I use my sweeteners in order to get different foods into my diet that benefit me in different ways that I wouldn't normally get in otherwise. I don't want to put glucomannan in water and try to drink it. That sounds terrible. But when you mix it with some cocoa powder, which also is very healthy, and some stevia and erythritol, that's what I use, stevia and erythritol in the glucomannan pudding, then it actually is an enjoyable experience and something that I am more likely to continue doing. There have been a lot of dietary changes that I have tried to make over my life, and the only ones that stick are the ones that I actually enjoy, not the ones that I have to just tolerate. So using the sweeteners is a way that makes those dietary changes enjoyable to me. Another way that I like to use these sweeteners is in like savory recipes. Like a lot of times I'll want to make a orange chicken or a salad dressing that's sweet, and I don't want to add the honey or maple syrup or whatever it is to sweeten the recipe because I want to keep it low carb. Usually those recipes I want to have low carb because like salad dressings will have a lot of fat. I don't want to add a bunch of sugar in there because that will mess me up as far as weight loss. So having a little bit of stevia in there or erythritol, it really, really helps to make, you know, salads really enjoyable and just gives you a lot of different options for like dinner meals. And then the last thing is that I do occasionally do some kind of a baked good that is, you know, on the less healthy side. I don't do it normally. It's not something that I do every single week, but like I talked about in one of my Wellness Wednesdays, I think recently, I do want to start doing that kind of the week before my period, just to have a little bit of something indulgent in those times when my body is needing a little bit extra, and it helps me stay away from the less healthy stuff. So I do plan on doing some baked goods. It's just not part of my everyday diet, but it's nice to have those in those times when you need a little bit extra of a buffer food. So as far as practically, I use the stevia, pure stevia, mainly for the Good Girl Moonshine. I make a batch of that at least twice a month. I do a big, huge concentrate. I have a video on that. I will post up in the cards. But I use pure stevia for that. And then for anything else, I use a blend of the erythritol and the stevia. And I do 1 cup of erythritol mixed with 1 teaspoon of the pure stevia. And I think that is similar to the THM super sweet blend that they have. And I find that that works great for any of my, like my pudding recipes or any kind of baking that I do. That is what I use. And honestly, I don't use a lot of xylitol. That is one that I bought this huge bag at Costco. I don't even know how long ago it was. It was quite a while ago, and I still have a lot left. Xylitol does the worst with my digestion. Erythritol I have no problem with. Xylitol, I have to keep it to a minimum, maybe about a tablespoon per serving. Otherwise, it upsets my stomach. So it's just not something that I use a lot, and also xylitol is poisonous to dogs, and we do have a dog, and I just... if I use xylitol, I make sure I'm making a single serving of something that I am going to be eating right away. I don't use it for the kids because they're more likely to drop something or leave something out that the dog might get into. But I find that the erythritol and the stevia blend that I use works the best for everything. So I really don't use xylitol much at all. I'll use this bag up whenever that happens, and then I probably won't be buying any more. I'm just going to be sticking with the erythritol and the stevia. And I wanted to mention, I just ordered this erythritol and I got it in the mail the other day. This is a 5-pound bag and it will probably last me 6 months. Like, that's how little I use, maybe a half a pound a month, if that. I mean, it's pretty minimal at this point, since I've cut out a lot of the baked goods. And then the stevia seems fairly expensive when you look at it. A 4-ounce pack for, I don't remember how much, I'll put a link to it, but it seems really expensive, but you use so little of it that it lasts you a long, long time. I got this a couple months ago maybe, and it was only up to like here when I first filled it up. So I've only used a tiny bit. So this will probably last me at least 6 months as well. So it does look spendy when you first look at it, but just realize that it will go for a long, long time. One last little note that I wanted to mention, I get asked fairly often if I do any sweetener in my coffee, and the answer is no, I actually don't. I just do my coffee with my collagen and cream. I used to do stevia in my coffee. Well, I used to do Splenda years and years ago, back when I used to use Splenda, and then when I switched to stevia, I used that for a while. But then after I did my first Whole30, where you cut out all sweeteners, I realized that I didn't even like sweetener in my coffee, and I never went back. A couple times after my Whole30, I was like, oh, I should put some stevia in my coffee and it'll be a special treat, and I'd put it in there and I'd be like, that is disgusting. And that's not because I don't like stevia, it's just I like coffee. I like the flavor of coffee with the cream in it, and I didn't need the stevia. So that was a really interesting lesson that I learned there. For me, I found I didn't even enjoy it. It was just something I did and I thought I liked, but I actually like coffee without sweetener better. So that is it for my sweetener video. I hope this answered your questions. If you were wondering about these things, again, it's very similar to what THM recommends. All of their sweeteners that they have in their store are fantastic. The stevia, like I said, is the one that I always buy. And then they have their super sweet blend. That's the erythritol and stevia. And then they have another one called Gentle Sweet, which I've never actually tried their version of it. It's a blend of all three, the xylitol, the erythritol, and the stevia. And I would totally use that, except it's a lot more spendy to buy it that way than to buy the big bags of the things individually and mixing them yourself. So that is what I do because I'm trying to save my money, but I love all of their products and definitely recommend those if you want it just to be simple and have it already blended up. Definitely recommend the THM sweeteners. So that is it for me today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if I didn't cover anything that you were hoping I would cover. And if you have any questions or if I wasn't clear on something, let me know down in the comments and I will chat with you down there. Hope you guys are all doing great and I will talk to you again soon. Bye guys.